All right, welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We're going to be trying a new thing for me, and that is the use of these little miniature leaves right here. I've always said that, or I've always thought that landscape stamping, scenic stamping, in terms of kind of maximizing its potential, I think we could go out and move into kind of three-dimensional types of media. And there's a lot of that type of stuff out there because, like, model railroad enthusiasts, people that do dioramas and things like that, there's a lot of material out there just specifically for miniatures, okay? And that's what we're kind of doing in many ways with scenic stamping. We're doing these little scenes. We're just not doing them in kind of a three-dimensional format. Now, I've been playing around with three-dimensional types of applications and things like the horizon and reflection cards, okay? So I thought that, when I'm trying out things like glitters and things like that, I thought that would be a really good format for it because it's already kind of this three-dimensional representation of a given location. And I thought that worked pretty good, but I wanted to, dip into this world of things like, different scale materials that are out there. So, okay, so the first thing that I was looking at were grasses, and I'll try some of that. I bought these right here. And I don't know how to use any of these types of things. This looks like fiberglass or something like that. But I also came across these leaves. There's a lot of different versions of them and different configurations in terms of colors. And this one here has a couple different values, I guess shades of green. And I don't know what to think about these immediately. When I looked at one side of it, it's like a bag of chips and there are all these little tiny crumbs in here. I thought, oh my God, maybe I should have bought they come in also these little plastic bottles, but I'll see what these things are made of and I'll see if it's indeed kind of a more crumbly type of material that can easily break apart with pressure. It might not be. They might be more of like I don't know, a different fabric or something like that isn't doing it, but it looks like it does settle because they're punching these out of some sort of mold, I guess, and just doing them. So, okay, so these are the different colors I have right here. I figured something like this can be used for, maples or aspens or ash, you know what I mean? Whatever types of trees. These ones aren't round, but we can use them for that type of purpose. But ideally, I think I'd have about maybe 8 colors. I'd want like an orange tones in here or like a yellow greenish type of thing. Maybe that's wishful thinking or something like that. But I didn't see too many things like that. And plus, I don't want to spend like $20 on a pack of a bunch of these different types of things because I'm not using them like they showed you can use in those different samples when I look at this type of thing. They're actually taking like a bare tree and like spraying it with something and just dipping this into this and slathering these little trees that are three-dimensional trees in a piece. I just want these, with a little bit of, with a small application of it here and there on a scene. Otherwise, I think it would be too much. But I don't know. We'll see what these look like. Okay, so the way I envision these being used, more so these two colors right here, maybe a couple of these. I think this one's a little bit too bright of a green. I'd use this in like a, springtime scene or something like that. But these 3 colors right here, possibly. And where I'd want them. Okay, so I've already stamped out this scene right here, half page, semi-gloss cardstock, and accompanied with this silver cardstock and the imagery stamped in here. I've also done some blocking out with the white pigmenting so that I can color these maybe a little bit. I've tried that before with colored pencils. It didn't work worth it, darn, because it just scratched the white right off of here even after spray sealing, but I think I can add in possibly a little bit of dye-based ink to it, or alcohol ink, and get those colored a little bit. Okay, but how I envision these is just putting a few little drops of glue down in here, and then sprinkling, some of these leaves down here, like they're floating on the water. I mean, I think that would be pretty cool. So we're always looking to go for something. I'm usually stamping some imagery in here to kind of, I don't know, it's not contrasting, but, setting some sort of image down here so that when you see the reflection down here, we're more aware of this as a reflective surface if you have these types of things on here. I think it changes the movement of a piece when you see these pieces like that. I mean, it'd be cool without these in here, but when you get these in here, it makes it look a little bit more three-dimensional, I think, in terms of depth, so I have this rock down here a little bit. Just a little bit of a compositional type of thing that I did here too. Do you see where I leave this open in here so that the viewer can come around in here, and here's this serpentine type of thing right here, and then they can enter in right here. So see, these rocks are on the left-hand side, and then you go right, left, right. So I'm never really blocking this off completely, so you can see it like this right here. So you see this kind of S-curvy type of thing, and sometimes in compositions that adds to a little bit of, it adds to kind of a visual flow in your pieces if you don't block things off completely. Now, there might be something where you do containment or something like that, where you block things off, but that's what's happening right in here, okay? All right, so anyways, that's a little bit of a background here. Sorry for blabbering on right here, but just to give you a little bit of a kind of background as far as the strategies go. Hey, Froggy Fresh! I was thinking about you. I was saying, I don't know how to use these things. I wonder if Froggy Fresh is going to jump in here. So things like grasses and stuff like that. I'm thinking Froggy Fresh knows all that. The miniature, I don't know what scale that is, model building. So all that type of stuff. Froggy Fresh, you should be doing this video here in terms of the application of different types of media. So I'm not sure if I might add in, a leaf or two in this top portion. I'm not sure. But okay, so what I was getting at here with these leaves here is that if these leaves are falling off these trees right up here, I need to get some of that tone in the trees themselves. Otherwise it would look like, they're unrelated. I wouldn't want to do like a pink blossoming, springtime tree up here or something like that, and have these fall leaves down in, the water here. Maybe they're floating from upstream or something. I mean, but that wouldn't make any sense. So I'm going to try to unify these things, or bring whatever color harmony into the piece. But I'm working around these different colors right here this time. So I'm usually just kind of doing it, and I'm able to create my own color scheme, with whatever I want. But in this case, I'm working around some existing types of hue here, and textures too. Hello, Debbie, Ginger, Linda, Beth, good evening, Candy. Let's see, hello to anyone else that might be on here. Good to see you all. You don't know how to do a video. Well, you have a phone, Froggy Fresh. You just get one of those little phone holder things. It's like this little serpentine thing, and you can bend your phone, and I don't know, you can, hit live stream or something like that, or you can just record. Or in this case, you can say, hey, Kevin, you're doing it all wrong. Okay, so one of the first things that, I don't know what to do is I'm thinking I'm probably not even using the right color of, the right type of adhesive. So I know there was glues to use, and I'm just going to be using my crafting glue here to try and adhere these different types of things down. I think it'll work, as I look at this right here, but yeah, I don't know. I did grab a tweezer though. Before the start of this video, I was thinking, okay, well, what do I need here? With these types of things and like glitters, I feel like I'm starting from scratch. in terms of my approach. It's like, okay, I'm using these leaves in here, but suddenly I forgot how to color a scene, you know, or something like that. So I'm looking at this scene, but I'm thinking about these three-dimensional things in here. And I was thinking, wait a minute, what color do I do? And how did I color my trees before? So, yeah, really new. So, okay, so hopefully we'll come up with some semblance of something, I don't know, reasonably decent in terms of a starting point on using this type of media here. So that being said, I have no idea how this is going to come out. I mean, it shouldn't be too. I mean, I can use it real minimally. I can just do what I normally do and just throw a couple leaves down here and just glue them down. You know what I mean? But we want to integrate it a little bit more into something a lot more interesting. Okay. Flocking pad. I don't know what these are called, but I just looked up like modelers or train something grass. I think it was. So this is mixed model micro landscape building. The one thing I didn't know was what that clear one was for. The rest of these are like little fibery, it almost looks like fiberglass grasses right here. If that's what you're asking about, Froggy Fresh. Yeah, these ones are the miniature leaves right here. So I have the link in the description. Okay, so let's get some tones in here, and let's get all this kind of set. I was going to do some of my coloring and all that just ahead of time, but I thought, that's part of the it's part of the kind of experiment here, because I'm going to have to do some things with the kind of a not matching, but harmonizing of my color schemes with these ones up here. So I'm going to try to do that here. So these ones up here, they're supposed to look kind of realistic. All right. So normally I'm just bringing in some really bright tones into my trees, and making things look a little bit more, looks a little bit more whimsical when you're going with these types of clear tones. But see, it's not that earthy looking, these colors right here. So I'm going to try to establish a foundation in what, where these can look like they, like they're a part of the, whatever, that setting right there, the environment and that time. And I don't know, I'm just going to try that here. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with some gray tones in here as background. And get, a reasonable foundation in here that looks somewhat like a three-dimensional space. I mean, I'm always trying to do that anyways. Well, almost always, but on this one especially, because we're actually using that three-dimensional media in there. I don't, the glitters, they're three-dimensional, but I don't really see them as that, because you don't really read them as like a leaf or something like that. It's more that flashing little bit of light that we see when we see those ones. But these things are actually they're actually like varied in color and modeling. So I'm going to try to match that somewhat in here. Okay, so I'm going to do this situation here where it's a little bit lighter in here, and then it's a little bit darker up here. Okay, so a little bit lighter on this kind of horizon right here. I'm looking at these leaves here. I guess these leaves look like they're in, like a high noon or something like that. They're not super dark or anything like that. So I wanted to leave some areas in here a little bit light. I don't want to overcomplicate things, These are just, if I was just doing this outside of a video, I mean, I wouldn't even be, I wouldn't be thinking about these. I'm just trying to, I don't know, describe something that I, thought of, that thought of for like a couple seconds, as I'm starting this right here. Okay, so anyways, let's see. Do I have, no, I don't have, I saw those static grass applicators though. I don't have that. If anyone wants to know what those things are, look it up. Because, or ask Froggy Fresh right here. Okay, so I saw that there's some kind of thing that you apply those types of grasses with. I'm gonna, if I don't think I'm gonna use the grasses on this one, but I wouldn't use it like everywhere either, because it would just stick out too much. Like these rocks are supposed to be like, in front of that grass right there. So if I added any that grass, it would be like I would add a little bit here and there as like little moss or something like that. Something that would just look a little bit more three-dimensional than doing like a meadow of like, super tall grass. I mean, something like that would be cool for like a, if I was doing like a Easter card or something like that. I think I would, try that, or I will try that eventually if I can, figure out how to manipulate that grass a little bit, kind of in a two-dimensional space, and have it kind of harmonize with the background. But I don't know, yeah, so Froggy Fresh, yeah, I don't know. If you're on when I start applying these types of things, and if you can think of some, applications or tweaks either to what I'm doing or what we can do in the future using these types of things, definitely chime in and let us know. But yeah, that static, what is it called? The static grass applicator or something like that? Woodland Scenics fine turf sprinkled with coarse turf. Oh, okay. So yeah. So it's layering, right? With all that type of thing. Hello, Jeannie. A grass applicator. Isn't that cool? Where did you order those? I got it on Amazon. Hello, Bill. Okay, so we're just going with the gray right here. See, I'm kind of leaving some areas a little bit light in here. Let's add a little bit of tone to it, though. I think I'm going to go for that as a background. I want to add in like this kind of mist in here later on. Okay, now this is, again, it's going to be a reflection card, and I like it when the reflection cards, the top scene, gets pretty dark in the transition zone between that and the reflected area. Okay, I think it just harmonizes a little bit more. Now if I'm doing like snow or something like that, that's not supposed to be that dark. I don't go that dark, but see this right here, right in there, if I transition that a little bit darker, I mean, this is just one color so far, but this is what I'm kind of moving towards. This area in here is going to be darker. And I did this on a semi-gloss cardstock because I want to be able to use my colored pencils in this area right here. So I want to put in like little leaves, like around these rocks, and a couple out here maybe. But they tend to like collect, there's like little currents on the surface, where, the wind is blowing and it, like right in these areas right in here for these rocks. I thought those would really cool spots for some leaves to kind of amass. And when you do this type of thing with these rocks on your surface of your silver cardstock, they look really three-dimensional like that though, don't they? But when you do this, like, like that, it looks really three-dimensional. So I thought adding those leaves in there would be, I thought it would work in theory. We'll see. And so, I mean, this is my first time too, so give me like two, give me 2 attempts on it, because I'm trying to figure things out right here. That's what inevitably happens. You figure out some tweaks here. Okay, I'm gonna go for a little peach Bellini with that gray that I've added. So peach Bellini is a little bit of this warmish. Not wormish, warm-ish in terms of temperature, color. All right. And we'll add some of that down here. Peach Bellini is this discontinued tone from Ranger Inks. I don't know. They need to come up with a. I don't know. I guess they have substitutes. Like, you know, the antique linens. You know, the old papers, the walnut stain. They're all kind of in the same color spirit right here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit warmer right in here now. And that'll be a good foundation for my grassy tones to come in here. So it's supposed to be fall, so we'll do a little bit of kind of more brownish tones, brownish greens, if anything. Hello, Cynthia. Let's see. Yeah, I hope you get over that quick, Bill. Hello, Sharita. Moving. That's all one of those things I hate doing. I like when it's done, though, or I like when I'm able to kind of... Sometimes when you move, though, you're able to kind of set things up, you know, in a more efficient manner where, you know... I don't know, when you have everything kind of established already, sometimes it's like, I don't want to move things around. It took me years to kind of organize my papers, even though when I did it, it's like, oh, that took like 30 minutes or something like that, but I was living with it for years, as is. All right. So we have that right there. I'm going to see if I can apply without removing some of that Brilliance white ink on top of my foil. I'm going to see if I can apply some of this color right down in here. Okay, I've tried it before with colored pencil. There's just like no way possible. But I've stained, I've sealed this in a little bit with some spray fixative, okay? Now it has a little bit of tooth, and I sprayed it really lightly so that it didn't frost over my reflective silver mirrored cardstock there. But I'm going to see if I can get a little bit of tone on there. My original thought was possibly some alcohol ink on here, but the alcohol ink could dissolve the acrylic coating on here and then remove the white ink underneath it. I don't know. You know, maybe if you do it like really lightly and gently, maybe it'll apply. Let me try some of that walnut stain, speaking of that. It's a little bit darker. Okay, that's working. I'm getting a little bit of brownish, warm tinge on the white Brilliance ink right down in here. So it's not so stark. Do you see that right there? Okay. And let's go for some of the peeled paint green. It's a little bit of a aged, kind of dirty green in a good way. Okay, so this is a new thing for me too, getting some color on these rocks, you know, or on my imagery down in this lower section here. I don't remember doing that before, or trying the to spray you know, a light coating of that sealant on there. The workable fixatives too, they're a little bit more porous, or a lot more porous, and they're a much thinner application of an acrylic spray, so you can get those tones down there. So I thought if we can get some color onto these rocks in here, it would harmonize more with those three-dimensional elements that we're adding in there. You know, this time is actually three-dimensional. Usually when I'm talking about kind of dimension in pieces, I'm talking about kind of the illusion of dimension. But in this case, you know, yeah, see these little greenish tinges right in here? I think that worked out okay. All right, let me test, you know, while I'm testing this right here, let me test a little bit of the alcohol ink. I'm not going to do too much of this because I don't trust it, but let me see if I can get a little bit of tone in here. And I'm also going to add a little bit of shadow at the base of some of these rocks. This is just a little bit of brown right here. After I blocked off with the white brilliance ink, if you haven't seen me do this before, I use some white brilliance ink because it'll dry on the silver cardstock like this, mirrored cardstock. And then I stamp out my objects over the top of it, in this case with StazOn ink. And then inevitably I have all this white all the way around here, you know. Or, you know, I've added that brilliance ink because you can't add it just exactly where the stamp is going to go. And then what I do is I just wipe off after I stamp out my imagery, just with a paper towel or something like that. I mean, you can still see it's a little smudgy, like down in here with some of that white brilliance, but, you know, just that little bit doesn't matter to me. Okay, this seems to work okay. It's not applying. No, I think it was just dry. This one's applying really good right in here. It's a nice juicy pen. I'm just putting a little bit of a base. Again, I don't want to overwork this because I think it will just remove what I've, you know, stamped and applied down here already. But I think, you know, if you just add a little bit here and there and just kind of blend it out a little bit, I think that'll be a good solution for, you know, whatever, mirrored cardstock. Whatever you want to call it, impression color. Before I would just usually leave this like black and white, or, you know, whatever, monochromatic. You know, just whatever's coming out of the stamp pad. But this, I don't know, this seems to be working okay. And I just really spray sealed it very lightly with the Krylon workable fixative. All right, that's a little bit too greenish though. Let me go back in and I'll just blend it out. I should be able to blend out with my gray pen here. Oh, you're downsizing there, huh, Patty? You're gonna have to have your crafting area really kind of efficient, huh? Or multi-use space. Okay, yeah. See, I'm going in this gray right here, and when I went a little bit too much, I removed a little bit of that white that was down there. So I'm just going to go in and blend here in the shadow areas a little bit. If you kind of remove in the shadow areas, it's not really any big deal because it reveals the silver cardstock, the mirroring. And that is really fine because, you know, the mirrored cardstock is kind of dark. All right. So we have that. And there we go, like that. Huh. Looking at that. Okay. I'm playing around with this. I'm kind of maybe overdoing it here a little bit, but whenever I see something that's kind of working, and if it's the first time I've done it, I want to kind of explore it a little bit. So I'm adding a little bit more of this warmish, orangish tinge here because that's the color of some of those leaves that I'm going to be adding into the space. So some of this I want to bring in like some of this color. It's almost like this one right here, right? So if I want to make this kind of harmonize with the terrain a little bit more, what you do is you bring in those colors into other areas of your pieces, even if it's like in like some little shadow areas of a piece. It doesn't have to be anything like really obvious. But let's go with that. There. Let's see, let's take a look here. I'm not going to bring in the red. That's a little bit too harsh, but yeah, like that. Okay. Now I'll do some of the same treatments up on this area up here, but let's do a little bit more coloring first. Okay, let's see. This is a Bounty ink applicator that you can find at Costco in packs of rolls of like 16. Some people, okay, so if you, this is the first time you've seen the thing, I just use like these paper towels mostly. I mean, I did play around a little bit with my, I don't know where to go, like my old color box stylus tools. I don't know, when I started doing that though, I don't know if it's because I haven't used them in a while, but I started thinking, I don't know, that, you know, the paper towel works, like, it's kind of in the shape of it. I just kind of put it in the shape of it. But, I don't know, the paper towel works, I don't know, just as easy for me, if not even easier. I never tore these tips or anything like that, but, you know, I mean, I am working a certain type of application, you know, method with these ones, you know, just to keep them working for as long as possible. And, you know, I had some tips that were probably 20 years old. But, I don't know, this works just as good for me. All right, this pad's a little bit dry. Okay, so I'm going a little bit darker with my gray here. And we'll bring in some, I don't know, more richness into the scene after I kind of establish my lighting scheme in here. You don't have to do it this way. You can work through other types of colors and things like that, but just kind of, I'm doing kind of a grayscale thing just to kind of speed things along here. It's kind of establishing your lighting and shadow in a piece, and then just going in and adding in your color kind of afterwards. Let's see. I cut an opposite mask so I can contain. Yeah. This time, I don't know, I was kind of in a hurry. I was just doing that right before this thing. So what I did on this one right here, instead of spraying like from distance, like normal, like you really should spray, I just put the can like, I don't know, a couple inches away like this, and I just gave it a quick spray like this, and I just went bzz, like that. And I wouldn't do that with like thicker sprays, I don't think. But with the spray fixative, it's so light, you know what I mean? It allowed me to do that. I was like, oh, that worked pretty good. Just do it in kind of a motion, don't like spray like that, just go like that type of thing with it. Okay, so you can see these kind of shadows getting a little bit more developed. When you go a little bit darker like this too for the reflection cards, and you create a little bit more contrast in your area, so if you get a little bit darker there, that area there seems lighter by contrast, okay? Just it's not physically lighter, but it's just kind of optically, you know, lighter in terms of perception. So doing that here, okay. That was our gray. Let's go back to that peeled paint here, and let's bring that into the color scheme. And let me switch out. I was just going to use the same gray right here, but let's go for a kind of a pure application of this green right here. Okay, now, because this is on semi-gloss too, I don't have to do this like completely. Sometimes the colored pencils are a lot faster too, and you know, for some purposes, but if I want to kind of get this overall type of color cohesion, then I do it with, you know, some sort of like sponging method here just to kind of get it all over, you know, a lot of areas in here faster, okay? All right, we'll get it on some of these rocks right in here. Not completely, but a little bit, like about like so. Okay. Now that's, I don't like that at all, but that's just a base layer color, so keep that in mind. And let's see, let's move into, I'm trying to think here. Let's go back to this walnut stain right here. And let's mix that with the brown, okay? I mean the green peeled paint here. Going into this grassy area. Okay, and I'll put some of this onto the rocks as well. These are the colors that I used on the rocks down below too. So see that it's getting a little bit darker. It looks a little bit richer here. That's one of my tips with grass, if you want to make it look a little bit more realistic, is don't just go through like 2 or 3 greens, okay? But then bring in like a faint, like a light shade of like a brown or something like that. And then it just makes it look more earthy, even if you're doing more of a, like a springtime brighter green type of scenario. And in terms of like semi-realism, if you're going for something like a, you know, we're doing like a little bunny rabbits or something like that in an Easter card, you want everything like really bright, you know what I mean? You don't want to use the brown in something like that. But for me, whenever I'm doing grasses, most of the time, you know, I want them really bright and deep in terms of the saturation. But whenever I've just used greens in the past, it looks strange to me. It looks too hot of a hue. All right, the ground. Let me see here. All right. So this is how my Marvies stack, of course, like this. And it's like the color that I'm always looking for is like at the bottom of it. So here's a jungle green. Okay, here's a pine green right here. I would normally put this type of thing at the bottom, but I'm doing these like desert sunset scenarios. So I'm using those like deep reds and magentas that I normally dip into. All right. I just about almost dumped my pile of Marvies right there, but I caught it. Okay, a little bit deeper on that edge right there. And see these rocks right here? I'm going to create a little bit of a shadow right in there. And again, maybe, I don't know, maybe I can do this faster with colored pencils. It's probably a little bit smoother with, you know, the dye-based inks and just kind of blending it like that. I don't know. Okay, let's go at the base of this rock right here too. It's a little bit too greenish though. Jungle green. Oh, yeah. Homeowners insurance. I was watching some videos on that. It's like insurance is one of my places that I was watching at, or one of the locations on like YouTube videos. They're talking about like HOAs and, you know, the skyrocketing prices, and it's all because of the insurance costs, things like that. So out in California, it's all about, you know, wildfires, but, you know, all those hurricane areas and other areas. And now it's like flooding issues out here in California, potential flooding areas. But yeah, insurance costs like insane in some areas. All right. down like that. See, it's getting a little bit closer to these kind of rocks down here. This almost looks too green. I might add some more tone over the top of these ones, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so let's see, something like that. See, it looks a little bit better now. You know, the darker you go, kind of at that, whatever, contact point down there. It seems to look more natural to me in these horizon reflection cards. All right, that is that. Let's go to a couple of really dark colors. Let's go to, there's a dark brown and a black right here. I haven't even gotten to my trees yet, but we'll get to those. Okay, so here's dark brown here. And I can just go in straight with the black, but the dark brown's going to make it look a little bit more rich than just the dark brown. Let's put a little bit of a shadow at the base of this tree, maybe. It's kind of hard to get that little narrow area between that tree and that grass area and this kind of foreground rock. Foreground in terms of just this top portion right here. You know, I mean, the entire lower area of this scene is going to be the, you know, the foreground, but. All right, here comes black. Let's add a little of this black up here too. And just to kind of frame the piece off a little bit stronger. If you add kind of this vignette type of framing, it doesn't have to be super dark or anything like that, but it just kind of contains your pieces a little bit more. Okay, so you can see what that black did right there. Okay, we have that. A little bit stronger looking, isn't it? See what if you go a little bit darker in your corners, okay, now that's using black there, but that's like a 70% gray probably in terms of my usage of it. I mean, you could go to black if you wanted to, but doesn't this area in here seem that much lighter? So if you go whatever, 10% darker right there, that area by contrast is going to be, you know, like 10% lighter, you know, in terms of our perception of it. So that's helpful too, because sometimes it's like, oh my God, I lost all my light because I applied too much color in here or something like that. Well, then just make another area a little bit. How much lighter do you want it to look? Then just take some areas around it and make them, you know, a little bit darker. And it doesn't have to be right next to it. You know, you can put it wherever you want, you know, within the piece. Okay. All right. Let me see something here too. I had a little bit of that black. I'm going to put some of that right over some of this down here. It didn't really apply really, but maybe if I go darker, I was trying to apply a really light tone in here. Okay, now the black is working right on here. It's making it look a little bit darker in those areas right in there. So maybe if you go with a dark enough tone, it works. A really light tone, I really couldn't see anything applying in there. So I have these kind of these little bit of a heavy-handed application of that greenish tinge of the alcohol ink. So this is just kind of knocking it down a few values. Like that. So it looks a little bit more earthy like that. Yeah. Okay, let me see it again. I keep doing this because I have to get my bearings, because sometimes when you have, when you're toning this in like that, just on its own, it could look a certain way, but then when I do this, I have light reflecting off of this back up in there, so I have light hitting it from here. It's like when you go out like in a, on a boat on the lake or ocean or whatever, you have light reflecting off of the surface up there too, so it can look a little bit different, in conjunction with one another. But yeah, it looks pretty dimensional now. I just hope that I don't ruin it with those leaves. That looks pretty good as is. We're done with the, good night, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Okay, so let's add in some additional richness down here. It's like, how long do we have to wait for those leaves, Isn't it like the title of this piece right here? Or the purpose of this one? Without re-inker, how long do Marvy pads? It just depends on where you are, Candy. I mean, and what colors you're using. Like black, of course, if that's your main black, it's, and it depends on how much you're stamping. That one for me, that color for me is the one that I'm re-inking all the time, or in workshops, when everyone was using Marvy pads in the workshop. The next one that tended to be used up the fastest was the lightest color of blue, which was the salvia blue, okay? So I'm using those tones up pretty fast, okay? Because those lightest colors are also the base layer colors. When you get into the darker tones, it's just kind of, in the shadow areas, okay? By the way, using my colored pencils here. So yeah, we were always re-inking black, for all the impressions. And then that blue. But then when you start moving up into your medium tones and darker tones, the darker tones, besides black, were the ones that we re-inked the least. Okay, now we were doing a lot of blue tone scenes in classes, for skies, everything like that, water scenes, lakes, and everything like that, blue, right? But the darker blue, we weren't re-inking too often. And we didn't want it super slathery wet either, because, when you're inking in with a darker color, you don't want it to be so wet on the applicator, whatever you're using, that, if you put a hard application of it down, it's not going to leave this like super, definitive mark that's hard to blend in. We wanted it a little bit medium dry, okay? So the darker tones were not, it lasts a while. Okay, so speaking of that, how I said, I haven't been using like my darker reds or that plum, hardly ever. Magenta, I love the color of magenta, but I'm just not using it in scenic stamping that much. Except if I'm doing a sunset, super deep, saturated sunset. And sometimes I'm not moving it, I'm not transitioning it into magenta. Sometimes I go with the reds, yellows, reds, oranges, tones, and then I transition it just like I do with the grasses. I transition it into my darker browns, my medium and darker browns instead, just so that it looks a little bit more mellow but still really warm, but just not like this hot, super hot magenta, pink, reddish tinge or something like that. I think the browns for me kind of mellow things out a little bit. The colors that just get really hot, I tend to mellow out in my brown tones. Okay, so that being said, so for me, that magenta, I might re-ink it like once every, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. But I'm not in an area where it just kind of sitting around is, making it dry out on my shelves or anything like that either. If I were out in New Mexico, Arizona, something like that, personally, maybe not for the pads that I'm using all the time, but for the colors that I'm not using too often, I would throw them in a Ziploc bag with a little bit of a, not super damp, but just a little bit of a moist paper towel or like that, or a piece of sponge. I would squeeze out all the moisture, but I would throw that into the bag just to, keep that bag in this little bit of a moister environment and sealed off, so that I don't have to re-ink those, when I go back to use them, you know, where they didn't dry out from usage, it just dried out from evaporation. So yeah, I mean, sometimes, some of these pads I hardly ever use, and it's like I go to use them, I'm thinking, oh, am I going to have to re-ink it at all? And I don't. And it's pretty much, I don't know, it's pretty much been the case with most of the pads. Yeah. So I took 20 years to answer your question there. But it does matter. And my other ones like mementos and stuff like that. The only pad that for me that has to be re-inked all the time, well, maybe there's a couple of them, but the stays on, whether I'm using it or not and whether I re-ink it, just because the nature of that solvent style of fast drying ink. I mean, it's sitting in my pad and it's like drying out. And the same thing with the Brilliance pads, since they're a fast drying water based pigment ink. I mean, they've been designed to dry fast, so on our papers, and that's why I can use it on things like that, that silver cardstock and have it dry. So those I tend to be re-inking a lot. And because there's so much thicker to begin with, so whenever you're using them, you're using a large, amount of it. I know we've been in these live streams before, we're talking about things like vivid pads. I think some of you had some vivid pads from Clear Snap, and those pads came out like none of my vivid pads are. I don't think they're newer than maybe 25 years. I don't know if it goes back 30 years, but those pads are still like fairly juicy. I was shocked. I haven't been using them over the years because they got discontinued like, I don't know, like 20 years ago or something like that. But those pads are really amazing. The pad material is kind of this soft, I don't know, real thick sponge material. Now I don't think I've ever had any of those disintegrate. I always thought Marvies had the best material, but I don't know. Those vivid ones are really good too. It's unfortunate though that ClearSnap discontinued them. They were probably just doing so well with their pigment pads, the color box ones, the color box, whatever, Kaleida color, I don't know, was that them? That they just discontinued their dye-based ones, and other companies started coming out with all kinds of dye-based pads. There was a lot of competition, and it was oftentimes just based on whatever the newest thing was, and everyone's buying that. It wasn't really based on maybe the ink quality, and the ClearSnap inks were really good. The Vivid pads, at least. All right, so anyways, we have some different tones in there. See, I'm trying to get some richness going in there with the grassy area like that. That area kind of livened up a little bit too much with that light reflecting. So let's tone this in a little bit more. All right. Okay, I think that is it. All right, so this is kind of tough because I kind of like the way this thing looks as is, but we want to add in some of these floral types of elements into here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to layer in some different tones on my trees. And let me see. I never really go really bright. I'm seeing if I have any kind of darker green. I need like I don't have like a pine green here. Let me see what this is. That's like a metallic gold. They don't have like a really cool metallic gold cap, so the colors that they use for their caps on these acrylic paint pens, it often looks like beige. So sometimes I'm grabbing it thinking it's like a lighter version of brown, but it's not. It's gold. Okay, so I think this will be the color range that I'll use on here. Like I said, it's not matching that, really at all, but it's the closest thing I have in my 3mm pens here. Now, one of the things that's kind of good about this brand right here, sometimes it's a negative in terms of really building up some bright tones, but these pens right here, they go on kind of semi-opaque looking, okay? But then when they dry, they get more transparent, okay? So in this case, the transparency and kind of the merging with the background tones is probably going to be best on here. Just because these right here, like I said, they're more kind of like an earthier tone. So anyway, yeah, okay. So see this right here? I mean, if we just look at this on a white piece of paper, that's a pretty bright lime greenish color, okay? But when I add it up here, even kind of when it's wet, I thought it would stand out a little bit more. Maybe it's because I just started using it. It might become a little bit brighter here. Or lighter. But I don't know. It's merging in with the background pretty well. Sometimes you can do some things also by strategy. I don't really do that. I haven't, come up with an application of this. But sometimes if you want these to be a little bit more subdued too, these paints, I think they're already subdued enough, okay, when you shake it up fully. But if you want these to come out a little bit waterier, just don't shake it up as much, and maybe you can get like maybe that's the strategy I can use. I can shake it up a certain amount and apply some, and then you shake it up more, where that paint, and water, become more integrated and you get more of an opaque application of that. I don't know. That might work. Okay, so I'm kind of adding this around. I kind of cluster a little bit. This is just my first colors, so I have a lot of colors to come here. I'm doing this green right here as my base color just because of this is supposed to be a fall time scene, so I want the green to be a little bit more subdued, so I'm going to put the fall colors over the top of it where the green is a little bit more, oh, I don't know, whatever. It's pushed back from a visual standpoint. I don't want, like, bright green, springtime colors to be, the predominant tone of any area of these trees right here, okay? Oh my gosh. That's crazy, Patty. All right. See that right there. I thought, now I just tried it with one brand, but I tried I was thinking, these are acrylics, so they're water-based pens, markers. Okay. And see, I mean, that's not very opaque, right? I mean, it's not like it looks like that color right there. You see the other colors are kind of, in the background are showing right through them, okay? And I wanted a little bit more opacity, so I thought, I mean, I like this in terms of the integration and kind of harmonizing with the colors in the background. But sometimes I had to build up a little bit too much of this paint. I'm going to add some of this down to my grasses as well. So I tried one. Like I said, you know, different brands are probably going to be different. But I tried oil-based paint pens. Okay, and like I said, it was just one brand. So, but I expected there to be a little bit more opacity, but it wasn't. It was like exactly the same as the water-based. So, yeah, I haven't been using those. And just in case anyone bought these, you know, if there's no difference between, you know, some other brand or something like that, or type of pen, I just use my existing ones. And plus, I mean, if it's going to have the same opacity, I just assume use a pen or a type that's going to dry faster, which would be the water-based over an oil. Okay, let's see. Let's get a little bit of this on my rocks as well. It could be like a little bit of lichen or something like that, which is the name of that stamp too. It's boulders with lichen. Okay, so that's what we have right here. And you see those little highlights right in here. It gets kind of muddy when I layer down so many tones in my grassy areas. But if you add in a little bit of a crisp element back into it, you know, with these pens, or even if it's just like a white pen or something like that, it really kind of helps out. Okay, let's add a little bit of this down in here too. Some of this is standing out a little bit too much. My 0.7 millimeter might be better, but I just like make that go fast. So I just put little specks down in that area like that. Well, let's take a look and see what this first pen is doing, if anything, to the scene. You don't really see, I guess you see a little bit of that color down here in the reflections down here, but not too much like that. All right, let's move on to our next tone. I would think that this would add a pretty decent change to the scene because it's really kind of warm and I don't know, like a different hue in here than what's already in here. I guess we have some browns that are kind of related to it, but yeah. Okay, do you get your ideas for the scenes from photos or do you create them in your mind? Both. I think sometimes the ideas come from, it comes from all over. So a lot of times it is, you know, photos. But a lot of times it's also just, you know, like my idea for this type of stuff. I was thinking about this type of thing, like, I don't know, like 30 years ago, okay? 20, 30 years ago. And I did some kind of applications with like things like shadow boxes where I was like using like reindeer grass in the foreground, things like that. But these days, yeah, the photographic types of inspirations are probably stronger on me because I've been experimenting around with so much different media and surfaces over the last 2 years. So that when I see something now, I can probably have a little bit of a better idea on maybe a way to approach the attempt of it, you know, than before, you know, when I was just using like glossy cardstock and dye-based inks for the most part. All right, so here's this orange right here, and kind of adding it roughly in the same areas as the green. I'm not trying to put dot of orange directly over the green or something like that, but if some of it overlaps, no big deal. Okay. And sometimes the ideas just come from the ideas might also come from like the surfaces. I might look at a surface, like a foil or something like that, and think, okay, I think that we might be able to play around with some sort of image or scenario on that type of paper. So, like the holographics maybe would be an example of that. Certain types of holographics, like this one's like a really great example of it. I was thinking about different ways, that we can use this right here. This could be like water. It looks like water to me, like a lake or something like that. But you throw it like this, and that looks like, like a northern light type of curtain thing. And then you have to think, okay, well, if we're going to use this, what type of imagery can we use on it that's going to stand out and read on this really loud surface right here? Because we have both really light tones and really dark tones. So, or is it, do you stamp on that type of paper in white and have it stand out against the black, or do you stamp it in black and have that area stand out against the white, or both, or something like that? And I don't know, that those are always kind of the it's the inspirations, not on, in terms of achieving anything successfully, but it's it's the inspiration to to take a shot at it, maybe doing it both ways or something like that, and see how it comes out, or to use different images with it. Yeah, I'm just like anyone else too. I'm always talking about approaching our crafting area more like it's a laboratory or something like that. So when I'm telling you that, those are all the things that I'm always kind of thinking about for myself. I want these, like this one right here. I'm experimenting around with this stuff. I mean, I definitely want this card to come out. Or something like that. But I don't really sweat it though if it doesn't, because as long as I learn something that's like, oh, that didn't work. So, what I mean? I'll never do that again. But at least it kind of steers you in the direction that maybe will lead to kind of a more effective usage of that type of, whatever material or stamp, that you were using on a certain material. All right, so there's my oranges right there. And let's put some of this down in my grass as well. That'll be like some of that, those leaves kind of falling on that area. I think, okay, so right now I've kind of answered one of the questions I think I had for myself. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to add some of this into this area up here, but I think these little dots right here are going to represent something that's farther off in the distance, okay? So I don't think I'm going to add it up here. I think it would stand out, too much up in those areas right here. Unless I just change this, like, and I really filled it in with extra tone. I just think it would be kind of, I don't know, it'd be visually obtrusive, in there. But here, let's go with some of this red. This is where I need like a rust red or something like that instead of this like bright red. So hopefully this one's going to be, here, let me, yeah, it looks pretty bright. I was going to say, let's not shake it up too much. Here, I'll just add it here and there, like a little spattering, because I think I need some of it up here if I'm going to use any of that one in that water area. I don't know, where does everyone get, where do you guys get your ideas from? I know some people, you'll go to a different location or something like that, or sometimes people see, they tell me that, especially if they didn't do any kind of scenic stamping before, sometimes they've told me that it's kind of it's made them more aware, or they've always, everyone always appreciates like a really good sunset or, sunrise or something like that, or visual, but maybe they observe it more, in terms of the different components of it. And that I've seen some scenes created from people. These days, they would probably take a photograph of it so that they can reference it when they get back. But, people do it that way too. They're trying to capture maybe the spirit of something that they've witnessed, which I think is really cool. Sometimes I do that too. Who is Spade Jones there? Richard and Michael Rivera say hi. Rich's son Tyler. Okay, so who are you, Spade? Are you Rich's son then? Okay, so Richard and Michael Rivera were my roommates for like years, okay, while I was going to college in Long Beach State. Awesome dudes, by the way, and awesome roommates. They were brothers, but yeah, I wondered about those guys. So if I've looked those guys up, but you can't look up Rich or Michael Rivera because there's like a gazillion, you know, whatever, with those same names that pop up. Now, I'd be able to recognize them, of course, if they were like on Facebook. I don't think those guys are on Facebook or anything like that, but I've looked for those guys for, periodically. Not too often because there was just, there was too many, like I said, too many results popping up. But hello to them. But yeah. So, so we were roommates for a long time, and a lot of times when there's roommates, there's like friction or something like that. But there never was. I was living with those guys for years. God, Mike, I lived with him from 97. No, wait, no, 87. It was like 7 years or something like that. But everyone was like all on, everyone was like all on their separate time frames and things like that. So I figured those two guys are brothers. They're going to get along, and everything like that. So I just need to be able to, get along with them. But everyone was like on our own schedules. We hardly ever saw each other. But then, I don't know. Yeah. After when we moved out, or Mike and his got married, and he moved out. But it's like I haven't like been in contact like at all after that. But I always wondered, periodically wondered what what the guys are up to. So I started Stampscapes when we were living in this one like triplex, and that was like in '93 or something like that. So I had these like plastic trays that I was putting my stamps into because it was all wood mounted and hand indexed, things like that. So I'd have all my stamps indexed and drying like out in the living room. And no one used the living room. Everyone just kind of, when they got home, they got whatever in the kitchen, and everyone went to their rooms pretty much. But then I would take those, and I'd have to go out into this little balcony that we had, and I would spray seal the the tops of them after the ink is dried on those stamps. Then you take it out and you spray seal. These are sticker laminates, but if this was like hand indexed in here, you just spray it with like, we're talking about Krylon and things like that, acrylic sprays, and I'd have to go spray it out there. And I'd hope, Rich's window was right outside of the balcony. So if he wasn't there, I don't know, I'd probably go into his room or something like that and close the window just so it doesn't, all that Krylon spray isn't going into his room. So early Stampscapes, early Stampscapes memories right there. All right, so there's the piece right there in terms of our fall foliage like that. It changed the spirit of it. It's a little bit brighter and happier, but that somber look was looking pretty cool too, just with the bare trees in there. Okay, I'm kind of layering some of this yellow in here. Again, this is one of those things with that yellow in there. It's really kind of drying much more see-through. So I'm just wanting to get a little bit more on there. And like I said, maybe in this case, that's for the best because it looks a little bit more, I don't know, whatever, integrated in with the background. I can barely see that green in there. That green really kind of got darker. So everything, when I'm talking about like integration, most of the times it's getting like darker than there. Ginger's pads, Vivid pads are still juicy. Isn't that insane, Ginger? How does that work? Yeah. So why did they discontinue those Vivid pads? The Vivid pads came in like full-size pads too. I just have the smaller ones in there. Yeah, reindeer grass. I have an example of that up in the gallery section of the website. All right, so see those different colors up there. So see all those colors up there reflecting down here, in here. So I think that color right in there is going to be important in terms of having those little leaves kind of floating around in there, or at least that look, maybe. All right, before I add those in there, let me just kind of finish off this top portion a little bit more. Let's go with cotton ball here and some white pigment ink. Okay. Just going for whatever, a little or a lot more texturing in here and depth, okay? And I mean, it's not going to be a big slathering of it, but whenever you do like this type of thing in here, you're really adding a different element because, I mean, there are some softer elements in here, but when you add some of this in there, it really adds kind of a soft light into the mix. So even if you don't do it over a large portion of objects, it could be like one glowing star in your sky or something like that. It'll really stand out by contrast, but just having one little element like that really expands on the visual textural range of a piece, okay? All right, so 100% cotton ball, and you smash it down there, push it back in there a little bit. This isn't like super slathered with ink. I know I say this all the time, but someone could be checking it out for the first time here. Okay, and what you want is a really slow application of this in terms of it's almost like dry brushing it onto a scene like that, okay? And I'm going to do it where you add it in is where kind of a light area meets a darker area. So it doesn't have to be like light on dark like that. I mean, this could be like light on that dark, or it could be just that little jump in, value. It's barely anything. But see this right here? All of that grass was stamped out in black, and I colored it in with greens, but see, as I'm coming over like that, I'll try to zoom in as close as I can here. just having that little bit like that really starts to change things in terms of the spirit of the piece, I think. Let's put a little bit at the base of this tree. You want to make sure you're... I don't always wait till my objects are dry too, but it's best if your objects are dry, you know, so you're not smearing them. Sometimes I smear a little bit. See that right there? It's just kind of, it's putting like a little mist at the base of these trees now, up in these branches right here. By the way, this one is the Art Foamies tree right here. Not that it has to be. But adding this right around these branches, so now these branches are kind of capturing some of that lighting in the piece. Like that. Maybe we can make some of these little leaves here look like they're a little bit more shimmery too. I don't know. Maybe in something like this, you can add in some glitter up the top there too. I don't know. Maybe that would be kind of a textural, you know, kind of conflict with these more earthy, kind of more realistic looking types of leaves in here. I don't know. Okay, now see this rock right here? See, it was all uniform right here, but I'm just going to put some kind of this mist kind of creeping over, you know, the top of it or on the side of it like this. And I think that rock seems a little bit more three-dimensional because you have it being enveloped by this, you know, illuminated moisture kind of creeping around on the edge like that. Now here's my little tip right here. See this? I have a little bit of it right here, right around this tree trunk. And then I'm not putting it right here, and I'm putting it right here, okay? Now that little bit, I mean, you can put it in that mist, but if you have these textural contrasts playing against one another, I think it's a little bit more effective. If you have this little crisp little tuft of grass, it makes that area right next to it seem, you know, softer, and vice versa. It makes this area seem a little bit crisper, okay? And if you add too much, you can just kind of wipe it off, you know, before it dries. This I'm using the Brilliance ink. You go for, you know, all the other ones. You can use, you know, whatever Hero Arts, you know, if you got a Stampin' Up one, white or anything like that, that would work just fine. But when you add it in like this, maybe on matte cardstock it would dry a little bit faster, but when you add it down like this, it stays really surface oriented and you just kind of almost erase it. Just take a clean portion of your thing and just wipe it off if you add too much. So I end up doing that too. I add up to, you know, too much sometime, and sometimes on some of my pieces, it's like I think I've removed more than I added, you know, because I keep kind of adjusting it. Sometimes I just kind of tap it off with my finger or something like that. You know, if I have a little bit too much and I just want to remove some of it. All right, so let's take a look and see what this looks like. All right, so I get that kind of misty feel up there, like about like so. Huh. I'm almost tempted to put some right down next to this water, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to leave it dark. Like that. Yeah, I don't know. It draws kind of the viewer's attention up here. It's like going into the light. All right, let's test out some of this stuff that we have here. All right, let me get my bearings here. I don't even know like the size of these things right here. I don't know, I might add a couple then right in here. What this looks like, it looks like it's like wood shavings or something. Like, is Froggy Fresh still watching? Do you know what these leaves are made out of? Is it like some kind of paper product? It does look like it's molded into something. So, okay, so let's see. Here's my thoughts right here, just initially. I'm thinking about adding in some of those. I don't know. Maybe I'll go for all colors. Let's test it out right here. I'll kind of add in a couple like around here. We'll do it in different tones. All right. Where'd it go? Here we go. Oh, those are little leaves. I don't know if you can see that there. It's like the shape of a little, I don't know, like a maple or something like that. I mean, not exactly, but it has that, like a 3 or 4 point, like leaf in there. Some of them are a little bit more three-dimensional. Okay, these are, that thing just jumped on me. These things are fairly stiff. I thought they'd be a little bit more malleable, but for the most part they're flat. Okay, I thought I was dealing with crumbs here, which there probably are in here, but my initial kind of sprinkling of them right here, I mean they're pretty definitive shapes, which is good. Like I said, I think some of this area right in here, this looks like dust to me. From my patterns, okay, some of this is really crushed right here on this one. I might be returning these ones too. Just because some of it is crushed. Okay, now my thing, I don't know, I cheaped out on this, because they're, these little baggies of them are, it's just smaller quantity. I don't know, maybe not. I was gonna say, I just grabbed it right here and they're all like firm, full leaves. But the other ones, they come in a little bit of bottle, okay? So these things are like from China, like everything these days. And in these little baggies, I mean, they're gonna get crushed, I think, So I think if you got the bottled ones, for a couple bucks more, maybe that's better. Unless this is all you need. This might be all I need too, because I don't see myself like using them like every scene, like really super slathered or anything like that. But I don't know, we'll see. Okay, I think the yellow is going to stand out a little bit more because they're the lightest things on top of this fairly dark surface like that, because normally you're not going to have like a studio light, like, glaring light on your pieces like this. Now I'm wondering if these are some kind of natural thing right here that's just dyed, because there's like a stem right here. I don't know if this is like some kind of like, like dried thyme or something like that. Maybe these are actual flowers. Okay. All right. Let's see how this goes right here. I wonder if this is going to work. Oh, my gem pickers, I think might work for this to make it like easy. I don't want to be doing like grabbing one of these like this, and doing this. Unless I have to. Okay, I'll do it, but I don't know if I feel like it. Are not scenic. I usually have an idea of what to make. For the scenic cards, I use memories of places I know or a pick. Got it, yeah. A lot of times what people do too for cards, especially like non-scenic ones, they might kind of start off with a foundation and then, or they might alter it and then it kind of takes on a life of its own and kind of moves in a, different direction or something like that. All right, Froggy Fresh, I'm going to try this right here. I'm just going to be using my Barely Art glue. Froggy Fresh, yeah, you got a recommendation for uh, like glues for this type of stuff, or do or do we just go with the, you know, the typical crafting glue for this? Okay, when I've been doing glitters, I've been kind of a little bit conservative in terms of my glue application, I think. I needed to put down a little bit more of like a dollop of it if I'm adding in this, that glitter, like one by one like this. Okay, here, as I'm doing this, I'm kind of tapping it down more. That first one came off, but as I kind of tapped it down like that, it spread out and it, a little bit. Sorry, I can't zoom in more for you guys to see this a little bit more clearly. But getting it around on that surface seems to be helping it. So let me wiggle this a little bit. Yeah, okay. So use the wiggle approach. So I think wiggling it around, kind of moving that little leaf on there is kind of distributing that little glue on that surface a little bit more. More of the, how much was that? Like, it's like a 4-point surface like that. Okay, what did Froggy Fresh say? I have paper punches to make those leaves. Oh, okay. Really? So it's like a really, really tiny one? I think I need to cluster these a little bit more too, I think. I'm going predominantly yellow. Here, let me just take a look here. I don't even know what this is looking like. I need to see if I can cluster it more. Let's see. Yeah, it looks okay. It looks too random though, doesn't it? It's like I'm doing that thing that we do with acrylic, like paint pen dots or something like that, gel pen dots. It's like all the leaves are like equally spread out or something like that. I need to put more. I need to spread them around a little bit, or cluster them. Cluster and spread, maybe. Let me see. And let's get more of that same color together. Let's make it look a little bit more varied. I have a little bit of glue on my gem picker here. Here. This is what I need right here, my clayboard tool here, scraper tool. Just to poke that down right there and keep it there. It's a two-handed technique. Yeah, this is working great. Here, we got a good technique right here now. It's really loose when you first apply it down there, but then I kind of moved it around right there, and those things were really firmly affixed there. So let me see. Okay. It looks kind of bizarre because it's only right there too. So let's get some more right around in here, and let's put some up here, like around in there. And I think that'll be pretty good. Okay, maybe less color variation maybe too. I didn't even think about it, but I'm going to put like a couple like on the tops of the rocks too. Like maybe a couple crumbs or something like that. So maybe these little crumb bits are good, you know, if you want just kind of a real subtle type of application of you know, something kind of textural in there, but not like a big leaf. Okay, let's see. Some of these leaves are pretty dimensional, whatever they're made out of. And again, this is not the application technique, you know, that the makers of this is, you know, probably had in mind, you know, adding one at a time. They're probably sprinkling it down on some area. That's been, you know, like a slathering of some sort of adhesive or something like that. Okay, let me get one green in this area here. Oops. I had a little crumb land right on that dot of glue, but maybe it wants to be there, so we'll just go with it. Let me see if I can just use this. Yeah, maybe I can just use this one kind of spear-tipped thing like this. Is picking them up just fine, just with one thing. So let's see here. Like that. I think that looks okay. Let's get a couple like floating ones like right up in there, I think. We can always add more. I mean, a little conservative here in terms of my application of these, like I said. Because you can always add more as you go. I just don't want to add a bunch of little dots of glue, and it's like, oh my god, you know, it's like way too many in here or something like that. Okay, maybe I'll add on a little bit of these like crumbs here. You know, just to get some kind of texture in there. Oh, the leaves are made with cardstock. That's interesting. Yeah, this one's look pretty good right back up in there. Let me see. I can barely see those crumbs here because they're reflecting. They're right over the top of that, but you know, you can go like that. I think that looks pretty good. All right. Let's add a couple. These ones look really good against that dark reflective area right there. See, like that, right back in there. Those ones look really natural. I think right around in here, a couple more right around in here. Okay, wait, see, I saw that glue there. Where was that glue? PVA glue, tacky glue. Okay, I'll look that up, Froggy Fresh. One, two, three, six, seven. Okay, one of the things I've learned so far is, whenever you're adding leaves down here, do it like do it like exactly 7 at a time each time you do it. No, I'm just joking. Sometimes I've joked around like that in the past in classes, and it's like I realize, oh, someone's like taking like notes on that. Okay, let me see. Let's go with the red one. Or no, let's go with the green. I don't know, maybe if you really, oops, that one was like a bit of like a, one that I just tried to put down there. It was almost like a piece of like wood or something like that. It almost feels like they're like paper mache or something like that to me. Okay, now see, if these ones would have been red, maybe they'd stand out more. But see, they're kind of that yellow, and this is like a yellow green right here, so they don't stand out in there. But I think those look pretty good back in there. Yeah, a little bit of red and green on those. I think they look pretty good down in here in the water. I'm trying to decide whether I want any up in these trees or not, or like on this rock right here. But if I put some on that rock right up here, I think that would integrate these two areas a little bit more. And I want it kind of integrated a little bit. But I also want this to be like, this is the water down there. Oh, I forgot to put those ones on those ones. I want this area to stand out kind of a little bit different though. In terms of, to differentiate it from the top area scene. So maybe I won't. Okay, let's take a look at this. Now we have some in the, that looks like ridiculous like that, doesn't it? It's because there's no colors in here kind of integrating it with anything like that. But, in terms of like a process though, I mean, this is like easy to do, right? And I think this scene like here just, I mean, I think it looks cool on its own, but when you pair these two things up like this, I think that looks pretty cool like that. Okay, now I was thinking about this too in terms of what I would be willing to do in terms of dimensional types of media. I use crystals and I've been playing around with that crushed glass, things like that. So something like this, as long as these are adhered nicely, I would throw a piece of paper in here, fold this over, and I think you can mail it out wherever. And you know what I mean? I don't think these are going to show up. These things aren't going to like imprint in here, you know what I mean? In terms of like a dimensional type of thing. Maybe the crushed glass would a little bit, but you throw a piece of like cardstock in here, like decent, stiff cardstock, or I'm talking about if this is a crushed glass down here. But on these ones right here, I would just kind of put a piece of paper in here or something like that, and you mail it out like that, you know what I mean? Maybe. And I don't think these are going to arrive like crushed and, little bits and crumbles are in here or something like that. But, these are also flat enough to where I think mailing it like this is not going to be any type of problem. I think anytime we start moving up into maybe like an eighth of an inch or a quarter inch, you know what I mean? Then we have to start thinking about different, mailing methods or something like that, or having something kind of protective in here. But I think this is still kind of falls in line of just mailing it out with a postage stamp on it and just closing it off like that. But I don't know. I think this is I think those look pretty cool like that. I'm not sure, if I want to add anything more up top or something like that. I think maybe I'll sleep on it and take a look at this too. I guess you can add more, like if you want to do like an extreme. Oh, this would be pretty cool too. Not in this scene right here because it's not the scale for it. But if you had like a this like in the foreground, but maybe this was like farther back in the distance, you can have like a little boater or something like that, or a kayaker kind of going through, you know, you know, really mirrored pond or something like that, or lake, with these things in there. I think it's cool with just with the things like this too. But if I had like I said, not in this one right here because, I'd have to have like a person like really big here. But I think that looks pretty cool like that. And I think I would want to have someone like going through it. Um, like I said, like a kayak or something like that. Maybe it'd be like farther off in the distance, and I'd just use more of these dots, like in the water to represent like more distant leaves, where you have these like smaller ones in the foreground like that. And I think that'd be really cool. But to me, I don't know. I think it's pretty good and reasonably integrated like that. We have our reds and yellows and um, greens like up in those trees like that. So, and I think those colors on that little tinge of color on those rocks kind of helped out a little bit. Oh, so that being said, spray fixative, that did the trick there for me on these ones like that. I wasn't going to save that, but I thought I was going to use more of it than I did. But I think that's enough right there, don't you think? I don't know. What do you guys think? You think that's think that's a, potential thing for the, I don't know, our cards going with that 3D media. I think that looks a little bit, maybe even more dynamic, maybe. But I don't know what I'm doing with glitter, though. I'm talking about my initial kind of test with glitter. They're really fun, but I need to play around with that more. But I think these leaves like this are really fun. So I want to do some other things too. I just want to do maybe a non-reflective reflection scene or a reflection card. But let's put some of those leaves up in that area up there. So that glue you were talking about, Froggy Fresh. So is that, if it put like some glue up there, do you do it in dot applications or something like that? And then, see, I want to do like a sprinkle application of this type of thing. I don't want to do a full tree like this, because I don't want to be applying, kind of surgically, these leaves down here, like 200 leaves or something like that up there. I want to just be able to sprinkle on and just, shake off the excess. And is that going to, is that glue that you're talking about going to, the PVA glue going to do the trick in terms of adhering those pieces like that? Because the craft glue, like with like the crushed glass, this is not thick enough. I have to kind of apply it like, like surgically again, just like laying it down one by one on there for it to stick to it. So I need a glue solution there. Or if anyone else knows, let me know. I'll post a picture. Okay, Froggy Fresh is going to post a picture on Stampscapes. Check out Stampscapes Facebook if anyone's on Facebook. Or by the way, if anyone joins Facebook and if you friend me, some people aren't on Facebook or they haven't been on there for a long time. Sometimes I don't accept the friendship because it seems like on half of the ones that I do, someone sends me those like phishing IMs and says, "Hey, how are you doing?" or something like that. They never, if you're ever friend me and I don't respond, it might be, because like that account hasn't been used in like 3 years or something, or 5 years or something like that. So just let me know and I'll accept, or whatever. hey Kevin, that was a real, friend request or something like that. Buying leaves from Not Your Woodland Scenics was getting expensive, so I bought a punch. Yeah, yeah. So some of these, like I said, I don't want to spend like $20 on a bunch of different ones. So these like 4 right here, you know what I mean? I barely used any. I figured that would be enough for me. And I think this was like $10 for 4 packs like that. But, just a little bit like this. But if I do, a more full tree just as an experiment, I might want to apply a little bit more. I don't know if I'll be doing that all the time, though. Hello, Vintage Scrap Girl. Oh, yeah. We're going to get that tomorrow, Vintage Scrap Girl. Down this way. So, Vintage Scrap Girl, check out, we're doing the, like the little miniature style, like model railroad building types of stuff. But these ones are like leaves, and we just added them down in there. So, I don't know. I think that makes for an interesting type of three-dimensional illusion. I guess it's no longer an illusion though, because they are three-dimensional types of things. So these leaves, they're a little bit flat, but they're not really, you know what I mean? They're kind of like curved or anything, most of these. So again, when you're choosing to get these, I don't know, I'm trying to decide if I want to return this, because this looks like crumbs like that. It's like you're buying a bag of, chips or something like that, or, where the bottom bag it's all like crumbs. Like this one's like full. But the thing is, on here, I was using a lot of those little smaller specks, which were like the ideal size. So I wouldn't want them all to be, I mean, I can crumble some on my own maybe too. But those like smaller specks are kind of helpful in there too, because just the full size ones everywhere, it looks a little monotonous, I think. So I think having some of different sizes is potentially a good idea, just for some variation in there. Glad you like it, Debbie. PVA glue is any of the white glues. Oh! Huh. I just didn't know if there was something a little bit more tackier, you know what I mean? I don't find this one to be too tacky, unless you let it set up for a little bit of time. So, I mean, this one's white glue then, right? This is the PVA glue, the Bearly Art one. I was thinking about maybe if it was something more like not a rubber cement, but if it was like in the consistency of it or something like that, you know what I mean? Like it like really grabs something kind of three-dimensionally like that. I think that would be kind of cool. Like I said, I don't know if I want to do like surgical types of applications of these leaves. If I'm going to use if I was like using like I don't know 3 or 4 times the amount of this on another card, I don't know if I don't know, that might dissuade me because I'm too lazy for that. Okay, let's see. I was thinking about some deserts, some three-dimensional things for some desert stamps, and I was looking at some of the different things out there. Okay, so, going back to that thing, I have these like different types of grasses right here, but look at that one right there. That would be like perfect for in there, or maybe a little bit of this one, like in there. But that might look kind of awkward because this is like a 2-dimensional thing, and we have all this 3-dimension. But I was thinking about, something like this type of thing. If we want a little bit of moss, like on maybe these rocks down here, you just like a little bit of it here or there. Maybe that would be cool and make it look a little bit more dimensional. I think it would stand out on these ones though, from a textural standpoint though, so I'm not really sure about that one. And this is just done very sparingly. So yeah, that's the type of thing that I need to figure out on, how to apply this and have it integrate in with this thing. Like I said, I don't know if I want to do like a full furry, grassy kind of, area in something like this. I probably wouldn't do it in a reflection card. I could, but yeah, I want to know like the glues on, how to do that, without buying one of those, whatever, those grassy applicator types of, I don't know, whatever it is. Like, is it like a wand or something like that? I'm not sure. So if anyone's ever curious about, the types of things that I'm looking at, look up something like model railroad. Um, what was it again? It was like textures or something like that. So you see these little mossy rocks and stuff that come up to for like dioramas or something like that. But if they're flat enough, again, I think they would look really good in for scenes, unless we're going shadow boxing, shadow boxes or something like that with scenes in the background where you have this kind of coming out and then you have this like little lip, if it was like a half inch or something like that, and you can put like actual things in there, little figures, stuff like that, into these scenes. They should be on the ground under the trees. Okay. You can use multicolored crystals to make some of those sparkly and stand out. Maybe I should, yeah. On this one right here, do I do that or would it compete with the leaves? I really like I really like the look of the gradient. Whatever A, B, I have no idea what that stands for, but those gradient ones, like in those little areas right in here. I don't know if I'd want that in this one though. Maybe it just was the first one I did, but I think it would compete with the leaves in terms of a textural element. I don't know. Somewhere along the line, we'll have to really just go all out. So it's like three-dimensional leaves. We got glitter in here. We got the three-dimensional, crushed glass or something like that, and maybe some little things up in the tree areas or something like that. When we're talking about doing this like stuff like that, we're talking about like, we might as well like be doing a diorama though, I think, or at least a mini diorama or something like that. Or maybe, it's one of those cards where you have, where we're using like foam core or something like that to create, like framing around something. And that's like, I don't know, that'd be a lot of work. Froggy Fresh, you do that, You do like those big, huge, type of projects, like multiple, like months, type of things like that. So, you know, us lazy, for the lazy card maker like me, like multiple days, I don't know. Although I have done scenes like those, 11 by 17 scenes though, that, it's like over the course of several days. So I don't know. Let's see. You can use your idea and add crystals to the leaves. Yeah, you can add crystals to the leaves or something like that. I don't know though. Crystals and leaves. If I added something sparkly up here, I guess it would reflect down here. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it could be done. But I think before I added crystals, I think I would just add more. I think I would add some of these leaves into these areas up here. I would cluster more like yellow in a certain area, and then I would add like a leaf up there like that. But again, if I'm mailing this out, I would have like three-dimensional media up top like that, and three-dimensional media down here. So when we're talking about like the folding it up like that, I guess like that. But you might start moving up into the like the eighth of an inch, not quarter inch, but a kind of a thicker thing, and then that going through like a sorter, it's smashing it down. Where I think one layer of this in here is not going to be a problem. I think it's, I think it's flat enough like that. And also, too, I mean, you don't have to like mail these out to anyone, but if I had 3D up here, I try not to go too 3D up here in a in certain cards. I don't know. I have, though. I put crystals up there and stuff like that. But the only thing, if you're going with that, put like chipboard in between these areas like this for when you mail it out. Because if it's like something hard, like a crystal, it will indent into this mirrored cardstock down below. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You know, if you're mailing out to anyone like that. Let's see. I've never. Yeah. Check those out. There's all kinds of different leaves up there. There's different colors and things like that. There were other things too. It was like different sands and gravels, you know, that people use in like dioramas and like model railroad types of things too. Yeah, there's all kinds of things like that. But again, you know, I'm thinking about in terms of our cards, so I didn't see a huge number of things like, oh my God, I think I can use that, and that, you know. So, but there were a couple other things. I really want to play around with this grass because this grassy type of thing, I don't know if this is the right one that I got, but I don't even know what this looks like. But there's other ones that are like moss, but I think they were two-dimensional for me. But I don't see I think these grasses, I think it's one of those things too where you mix media just like you would mix like pens or something like that. But see, this one right here is a really great tone like that. And let me see. I don't know where my tweezer went. But okay, yeah, it's that powdery type of substance here. So I need to read up on how to apply that, you know, without that machine, if I can just do it with a little bit of glue. To me, this looks like a paintbrush, for my purposes, a paintbrush application of glue, or maybe I would just use a, you know, like a cotton swab or something like that and swab it into a little area. And then you just sprinkle this right on top, you know, and get a little bit of that three-dimensional texturing in those areas maybe. Unless you really need to do it in mass or something like that for it to look cool, I'm not sure. But we'll play around with that a little bit like that. So, can you cut the leaves? Okay, so you must be talking about like Froggy Fresh's cutting things. Oh, Pat, or unless you're asking me, I think you can, Patty. Like if you know, if I had like, so this is like my cutting mat. If I wanted to, I can just, you know, cut it with an X-Acto knife or something like that. But again, if I'm doing like, you know, if I'm doing like 20 of these, I don't know if I want to be cutting that type of thing. Due to laziness again. I don't know. These are pretty cool though. I think, I don't know. I think it's, they're probably worth the time, I think. Like that. I mean, I'm going for like this three-dimensional look. So I think of anything that I've done on these types, I don't know, the glass was cool too. But this one, I don't know, this one like this for these fall tone scenes, I don't know. I foresee myself using it more. The thing is, after you do like something like this and you see what it looks like, sometimes if you do like a similar scenario and you don't do it, it looks like it's really missing something. So I've been adding in these like little dots of, you know, paint down in this lower area. And I think it looks pretty cool. You know, it matches what's going on up there, but you know, this one looks better. So I might not be able to live without them. All right, good night, Debbie. To do that with static grass, use tweezer. Okay, got it. That's what it's called then, static grass, huh? Make the grass go in one direction. Oh, that's interesting with the direction. In small clumps on your glue so it lies flat. Okay. AB. Oh, Aurora Borealis. Is that what that is? Huh. Maybe you're right. Yeah. What was it again? Gradient. Gradient Aurora Borealis? Huh. That would be cool if that's what that stood for. I think I looked on the description. I didn't see it stated anywhere, so I was thinking, oh, that must be something with the, you know, the crushed glass or the people that use it in, you know, those resin pours. You know, it must be a resin pour term or something like that. All right. Oh, this looks more like flocking. Got it. I'll figure out something. All right, folks. Thanks for checking out the vid here and a little experiment here with these pieces. Hope to see you in the next one. Where did that person go? That was Spade Jones. I need to write that down. I need to see what those old roommates of mine are up to. I was thinking at the time, it's like, those are the like two dudes that I will have lived the longest with in my life that weren't like family. Spade Jones. Huh. Rich's son Tyler. Got it. Okay. That was interesting. All right, folks. So I just need to glue this down. What I'll do is I'm going to spray fix, or I don't know, I can use any acrylic spray up here. And then what I'm going to use, I'm going to need to use an adhesive, a spray adhesive on the back for both the bottom and, you know, top component here. And then that shall complete the card. I'll probably stamp something on the foreground, you know, on the front of the card or something like that, you know, quote stamp or something like that on here. So, yeah. All right. Fun experiment here. Good night, everyone. Hope to see you on the next live.